on questions you're going to be asked to graph this, and you have to become an efficient grapher. There's no doubt about it. But you know a little bit about the efficiency of graphing already based on the fact that you look at the quadrantals. Those are the ones that give you the most amount of information, okay? This is going to be R1, 0. This is going to be R0, 1. This one's going to be R -1, 0. And down here is going to be R0, -1. And you also know the add sugar to coffee thing. Yes, our CAST rule, which becomes very, very important. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to give you 3 scenarios. 1, 2, and 3. And let's put them in different colors. So I'm going to make this guy a blue one, and I'm going to make that one here blue, and this one over here a green one. Okay, perfect. So let's start with the red to begin with. Bada-boom. Standard sign function. We know that we're dealing with the y coordinates of all of these. So we're starting at 0. There's 0. When we get to the halfway point, we're at 1. So, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3 at 1. We're right here. Then we're back down to 0. Right? We're down to the middle point again, 1, 2, 3, which is down here at -1, and then back up to here, which is going to be 0. So we're going to have a graph that looks an awful lot like this. Ta-da! We should be really, really efficient at graphing something like that. So go backwards now. Again, 1, 2, 3, starting here. 1, 2, 3. Where are we going? We're down here. Then 1, 2, 3, back at 0. 1, 2, 3, back at 1. 1, 2, 3, back at 0. So we're going to get a graph that goes down first, up, and around. And there's our sinusoidal function from -2 pi to +2 pi. That's simple. Now, here's something that we got to look at. Remember then, we are now got a stretch factor. We now have this wonderful stretch factor 3. So everything's going to be stretched by 3. But did I change the period at all? No, because the period, which would be from here to here, is still 2 pi for one complete cycle up and one complete cycle down. I have not changed the period at all. I am just stretching this vertically. So, okay, so that's 1. That would be 2. That would be 3. Okay, that's 1. That's 2. Oh, we need a little bit more room here. There we go. There's -2. That would be -3. Think about it. I'm taking this point here and I'm stretching it vertically to 3. The zeros, you can't stretch them. Think about the mapping. If you think about a mapping x, y, it's going to x, a, y. That 3 goes here. If we're starting at 0 here, 0 times 3 is still 0. The only point that gets affected are these points here and here, between the 0 and the pi, and between the pi and the 2 pi. So this guy's getting, in fact, stretched to here, down to here now, and all the way back to here. Look how our amplitude is now 3. Starting at our center line, going all the way to the top, our amplitude is 3. Isn't that wild? It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. Take a look at our next one, which is this one. Remember our stretch factor now. Our stretch factor, again, goes all the way over to our A value. But again, think about it. If our A value is 0, here, here, and here, what's the point of stretching this? You don't have to. Our stretch then is, of course, at our key points here and here. So our stretch of a half. So this was originally at 1. Our new stretch is going to be a half. This was originally at -1. Our new stretch is going to be a -0.5. And this cycles through, through this point. Let me just rewind that a little bit. Okay, there we go. Cycles through this half the size, because stretch factor of a half. Isn't that wild? Now, we can do the same thing going backwards. Look, let's take our blue one. We know our blue line is stretched to the 3, stretched to the 3. Beautiful. Let's just draw it. Here we go. Boom. Period is the same. So our x-intercepts have not changed. Look at this guy. Again, half. Half of this guy would be here. Half of this guy would be here. So again, stretch it a half. stretch and a half. Look at that. Look how pretty that works out to be. It's gorgeous. So we fill in the blanks here and we realize a few things. The domain has not changed. The domain does not change. We are still here between negative 2 pi, right, to, of course, 2 pi. Whether we're talking about this guy, whether we're talking about this one, or whether we're talking about this one, because remember, our domain did not change because we are doing a vertical stretch, not a horizontal one. The range does. Remember, this one was between 1 or negative 1, right, and 1. When we have the 3, look how that 3, that value of 3, changes our range because we are stretching vertically. So this goes from negative 3, right, to positive 3. And this, of course, is our last stretch of a half. So we're going from negative a half, right, to positive 1/2. Isn't that cool? The period stays the same. The period is still 2 pi because we have not changed the period of these guys. We've only worked vertically, which means our intercepts are the same. Our intercepts being, of course, at 0, at pi, right here, look, at pi and 2 pi, and so on, and so on, and so on. They have not changed at all. But how do I make this change? Well, that's what's going to come up in the next couple of podcasts. Hang tight.